Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the GuildMag podcast. I'm not entirely sure if the intro cut out then. I kind of forgot to unmute it for myself, so I couldn't tell when the intro had finished or not. I was trying to stealthily do it. I think I kind of broke it a little bit. But anyway, we're here, as always, with me, Sandra and Aaron. How are you guys doing this week? You good?
Yes, we're fabulous. I'm fabulous.
God, what an abruptly news abundant week.
I know, there was
is how I would describe this week.
And then all of a sudden there was quite a lot.
I know.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about the big AMA / Colin leaving bombshell that dropped this week. Also some stuff about raids, because obviously Salvation Pass is coming out in 2 days' time. So we're going to continue our discussion we've been kind of having over the last couple of weeks about that. And yeah, quite a lot to cover this week. I usually say there's quite a lot to cover, but this week there genuinely is actually quite a lot to cover to try and fit into an hour. So we're going to kick things off as always with the Gemstore news. It's a big one. It's an everyday sale in March, so every day there is a new returning item for sale in the Gemstore. So go and check it out. Has there been anything interesting? I haven't really paid attention for what's been up lately.
Yesterday was like instant repair canisters, and today it's oh my god, I just had it, and I've forgotten already.
Wasn't it the outfit?
Monk outfit.
The monk's outfit, right?
There we go.
The monk.
I pay
attention.
Somebody So yeah, lots of sales in the gem store. Go and check it out. In addition, so we have winter items are about to leave the gem store. So check out the promotions tab for a full list. When are they leaving? Have they already left? Is this old news?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Somebody correct me.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I'm not super up to date on it.
No, I think they're kind of phasing them out. So just kind of pay attention to the promotions tab. They'll stealthily sneak things out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or sneak things in.
Indeed. So gem store stuff. Go and check it out. Community news this week. So Wolfenir has kind of left Guild Wars 2. He was, for anyone that doesn't know, a big kind of presence, especially in the engineer community. He did a lot of kind of World v World engineer builds, especially, but just a general, I guess, engineer aficionado.
Yeah.
So he has left, and in his wake, he has left his engineer handbook project to someone called how do you pronounce their name?
Sour.
Sour.
I'm so sorry
if you are watching.
I can't even begin to try.
No.
Yeah.
So his work shall continue.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's or she, I'm not actually entirely sure, but they've been working on getting a new engineer handbook website up and running. So the link will be in the show notes if you play an engineer and you're interested in learning more. So PSA in community news this week, Guild Vault value calculation is now available. All you need is the API key to your account, which you can do on guildwars2efficiency.com.
No, actually, you get it from your the Guild Wars 2 account when you log into and then you stick it into GW2 efficiency.
You get it from the website.
I totally mucked that bit. That's what I meant. I totally
It's okay. It's okay.
Mindlessly reading the show notes without thinking about what I'm actually saying.
It's okay.
So yeah, go and check that out. Guild Wars 2 efficiency is actually really great if you don't use it. I don't use it, but I've been meaning to because it shows you a lot of really interesting stuff about your account. I know some guilds use it to kind of judge if you're worthy of joining them or not.
I was gonna say to judge people.
Yeah. It's a good site. So go and check it out.
I definitely
to judge
it.
How does that work?
So they'll look at
it shows how much your account is worth and how the most expensive items you own and what is giving how much monetary value each item is contributing towards your total account. It's kind of depressing when you look at it and realize 98%. It's just fun to look at.
But why is it a good thing that guilds would?
I didn't say it was good. I just said they are. They use it to judge whether or not. I guess you play the game enough. That kind of anyway.
You have to consent to it. They can't just steal your API key.
Well, no, I understand that.
Yeah, it's all consensual here.
Okay, I'll say no more.
Moving
But
on.
it's kind of depressing when you look at it and realize all your account's value is in like 3 items.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Poor Aaron. Yeah. Well.
Okay.
What was I gonna say? I can't remember.
Raid
Moving on. Anyway, no, I was going to talk about Jace losing like 5k gold this week.
I saw that. Yeah. What was he talking about?
So one of our
What did you do?
yeah, I don't entirely remember. He never really explained it to us.
You do the
so
ecto gamble?
I think
he did the ecto gamble
yeah.
and he wouldn't fess up to it.
I think he did, and we were trying to, when we were raiding with him on Tuesday, we were trying to find out how he lost 5,000 gold, and he was like, he kind of just shuffled around, like, oh, but I only lost 1,000 because I've got this thing worth 4,000.
Right.
So I don't know, but yeah, if anyone sees Jarkor around in game or in the chat or anywhere on GuildMag when he next posts an article, tease him for us. Never let him forget the time he lost 5,000 gold. And so, the final bit of community news. So there's a raid satisfaction survey on Reddit, and the results are in.
Yes.
And since we're going to be talking about raids, we're going to just kind of kick things off with a couple of interesting points that came out of this, which I need to furiously scroll through to find. Yeah, so it measured a whole load of things like satisfaction, how often you raid, what classes you play, all that kind of stuff. And the bits I was really interested in are the satisfaction levels with the raid, because there's been, I think ever since raids came out, this kind of discussion about they're too easy for hardcore players, they're too hard for casual players to kind of, use those binary terms. And so it was interesting to see kind of what the general consensus actually is in terms of just raw data. So satisfaction levels, rated on a scale of 1 to 5 with the difficulty of bosses, the median was actually around 4 out of 5. It had the most votes with a 37% what am I looking for? Share of all the votes. So generally it seems that people are satisfied with the difficulty. I mean, the highest ones were 4 and 5 out of 5. So I think that's quite interesting. I think it goes against if you just believe what the discussions on Reddit have been saying about this kind of polarizing, it's either too difficult or too hard. It seems interesting that actually people feel that they're about right in terms of difficulty.
And it seems, especially since the majority of the people that responded to the survey were raiders.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it works for like you said, it's not, it's harder than than casual play, but it's not maybe as hard as a lot of raiding in other games, and I think that's because they made it for a player base for a game that, in all honesty, guys, Guild Wars 2 is one of the easier games out there, right? Yeah. So I think they appealed to their player base relatively well with the raid difficulty, and I think it paid off.
I think it's important to note that one of the questions was, have you raided in other MMO games before? And people who have are actually in the minority by kind of like, I think it's 5% or something. So it's interesting. I think it's difficult to... I'd like to see this survey conducted again when Salvation Pass is out and when the third wing is out, because I think if I was to answer this just based purely on the first wing, I'd probably be satisfied with the difficulty, because we were talking about it ages ago. We see it as kind of an intro to raiding. But I'd be interested to see if people still feel the same way at the end of this entire first raid, if the difficulty remains kind of on the same level. Would people still be satisfied with the difficulty of the very last boss of this current raid? So we'll see. Interesting. It was kind of similar sort of trends for when they asked about, are you satisfied with the mechanics, and it was the same sort of thing. Majority yes, 4 out of 5 was the median again. Loot and other rewards, general dissatisfaction, which I kind of agree with. I get pretty crappy drops, to be honest. I've never had an ascended drop from a raid, which isn't that great.
That's kind of surprising.
I've never had anything cool like a ghostly infusion or anything. So I do think I would like to see better rewards for raiding. I don't know if they actually said anywhere that they're looking at making the rewards better. Did they say anything in the AMA? Or I can't remember anything about that.
They talked about like the multiple minis that people have gotten.
Yeah, that's
going to be.
So you'll be able to
turn those in. Yeah, turn them in.
Because a lot of people are getting. I think mini Gospel is the most common mini drop. I know a couple of people, myself included. I think I've got like 2 or 3 of them, just sitting around, not really doing anything. So it's good that that's going to be a thing. I think. But yeah, I think loot and rewards generally are a little bit lackluster in raids.
Yeah, I just looked through the raid summary from the AMA. It doesn't look like there's any plans for reward. Like
they're looking into making provisioner tokens easier to access.
Yeah, that was all I really saw.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as the hardest content in the game, it should be the most lucrative. Is my personal, or if not lucrative, have genuine, good, unique rewards that can be obtained from it. At the moment, it should
be the most lucrative in a non-exploitable way. Like, obviously, there's always going to be the exploitable things are always going to be the most lucrative, but raiding should definitely be highly lucrative without having to exploit it.
Crystal said that rewards are designed around the acquisition of legendary armor. So
yeah, I mean, so that is the big thing as raids.
That makes sense, but
it's at the moment like we're not going to have legendary armor until the 3rd wing is out, and that's going to be May, June. So it's like at the moment rewards are just crap because we can't. You can work towards legendary armor, but you can't actually get any of it. So.
But when it comes out and you're the first one with that armor, you're gonna be feeling pretty swanky.
Special.
I suppose. And so they also asked about kind of aesthetics, story, and lore, and generally, it was generally good consensus. There were quite a few that were kind of in the middle, actually. But I'm quite happy with it so far. I think. I think this new wing's going to reveal. They talked about kind of the story in the new wing being, I think, much more than the first one, the Spirit Veil. So that's going to be really interesting to kind of see what develops in there and how accessible it actually is to players. Because generally, actually, people from this survey scored it as being quite highly accessible. The raids. I don't know how you guys feel about the actual accessibility to you. Do you feel like it's something that that
I could just like pick up one day and go into?
Yeah.
No, it's much more daunting than that, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you keep seeing on Reddit is people saying, I want to raid, I want to learn the raids, but anytime I go into looking for group or try to find a group to raid with, they're always like, well, you need raiding experience to raid with us. So how do you get raiding experience if no one will accept you into a pug or...
And that's why I find it daunting, because you have to find a guild for it. Like, you have to actually actively go out and join a guild and train for hours and hours and hours. And yeah, I don't think it's particularly accessible, but I don't think raids are supposed to be particularly accessible. I think they're supposed to be something you really commit to.
One of the questions in the survey did actually ask if most people are raiding with a guild or with pugs, and 74.7% of the people raid with guilds. So, right there.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. I mean, you can pug it. It is, at least Veil Guardian is certainly doable with a pug. But it's, I mean, do you want to tell the story about me and you this week? What was going to happen? Do you want to reveal it or?
So, Rowan wanted to set me up with raid group 1 from GuildMag to go in on yesterday, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
But of course, he sprung this on me like, okay, let's do this today, and I'm like, not ready. I haven't practiced the build, so I freaked out. Pretty much, because I was like, I haven't practiced the build. I've looked it over. I haven't played my Necro in I don't know how many months. So it's like, I had a panic attack. And then it ended up not happening, so...
Yeah, so I think this is the big thing. So we offered to go and essentially carry Sandra through Veil Guardian, so she could get some experience and be able to talk about it in this show.
And see, that the thing is that I'm the type of player that I don't like to be carried through content. And so for me, it's like, I don't want to be the weakest link.
I think that's...
I want to be able to be helpful to a group and not feel like a drag,
Yeah.
And then have people so that's just me. That's just my own little personal tick.
I think a fair few people feel like that, and at the moment, it will change on Tuesday. But at the moment, it's relatively difficult to be someone who has no experience of raiding but wants to go in and learn to find 9 other people who are in the same boat as you. Especially if you're
Right.
not in a guild, it's it's gonna be very difficult. You'll be in looking for group for probably quite a while. And there was a point I was going to make about this, but it's gone.
It's just it left.
Yeah.
It left the station.
Yeah, it's gone. It's completely gone. So
Yeah.
Netko,
from-
sorry, in chat says I
Netko.
cleared the raid with pugs, but if you're not lucky, you need hours to find a good group. They need to put raids in the looking for group tool. Looking for group is a mess, and yeah, we were actually talking about this in the in our raid on Friday, about how the looking for group tool just needs its own raid section. It just needs some sort of overhaul, I think, to actually put resources into it.
Yeah,
And I think
Crystal.
it's a pretty low priority tool right now, isn't it?
Well, no, Crystal said that they are looking into adding raids to looking for group in the AMA. So it's coming, or at least they're trying to work on it because they know. I mean, everybody's asking for it. So
Yeah, it's just if you have a raiding in an MMO, it's just kind of a staple that you make it easy for players to be able to find other players to raid with, especially when it's a 10-man group that's required. I mean, they do have the search bar now, which is nice, but it's not really enough.
Not
I
enough.
don't think.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see. And there was another point I was going to make.
From
It's
the
gone.
survey?
No, from what we were talking about before I brought out the thing in chat. Oh yeah, so since the new wing is coming out on Tuesday, if you haven't yet gotten to raiding, go and do it on Tuesday, because that's when everyone's learning again. Nobody knows the new raids. Just forget about the first wing. Just go straight into the second and start.
And fight a sloth.
And go and fight a sloth.
Fight a sloth. Yeah.
Indeed.
So little sloths.
Indeed. So on the blog this week, Crystal Reed posted about the best way to kill players with Sabbather and kind of how they went through
designing
the kind of design iterations of the fight. And there's not really much to pull out of the blog post itself. I thought it was just quite interesting to see how things kind of develop, and they seem to put a real emphasis on making the fight as fun and engaging as possible. That seems to be at the forefront, and then it's like, how do we scale the difficulty kind of comes later, I guess. Which is I suppose a novel way of doing it, because the way I imagine raids to be designed is, what's the most mechanics we can chuck at a player in this fight before it's too difficult, and then they scale it back. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much we can pull out of this blog post. I thought it was interesting to hear things like, for Sabbath, if you don't know how Sabbath fight works yet, this might not make any sense to you. But things like the initial platform had 4 chunks to it, and they could be, they could essentially all be destroyed. Things like cannons would leave fire behind. It sounded like those things sounded like they were a bit more difficult than what we've got at the moment. But then you've got things like
Sabbath is still pretty crazy though.
I mean, I actually think it's easier than Gorseval, personally.
It seems like I don't know. I watched a stream of it, and I don't know. It seemed really straightforward.
It is.
I couldn't.
For someone who's never raided,
what's going on?
Yeah.
I think a lot of raids come down to your raid leader. If you have someone who's calling out things to do, it makes it a million times easier. Because Jace, our Tempest, well, one of our Tempests in our group, he's assigned to. We use the 2-player cannon strat in Sabbather. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll make this as brief as I can. And it was Jace's, like, this week was Jace's real first time in Sabbather at all. But because we had people just calling out what to do, you only have to focus on the jobs you've been assigned. And as long as everyone focuses on what they've got to do, then you're successful in the raid. And Sabbath is nowhere near as high a DPS check as Gorseval, and it's just, there's only a couple of things to really look out for, so it's quite easy, and it comes down just to the general organization of your group, really. No matter how skillful you are as a player, if like the 9 other people around you aren't as organized or as skillful, then you're not going to be successful, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on Guild Chat, they talked about storytelling with Crystal Reed and Bobby Stein. So there were some interesting points that I thought we could pull out of this. So the first of these was kind of talking about, I think, were we talking about it last week or the week before, with our concerns with kind of Slothosaur and it being kind of too light-hearted and not really epic and dark enough for a raid.
Yeah.
I think it was Bobby Stein who was talking about that actually most of the Forsaken Thicket is quite dark and brooding and what you'd expect from a raid. And this is kind of just one of those rare opportunities to take a break from that. And he brought up the point, I think, that if it's all dark all the time, it's no fun.
Depressing.
It's depressing. It's no fun. These kind of breaks make it, I guess, better. I don't know how much I agree with that, but I suppose it depends how much Slothosaur actually genuinely fits into the story, and if it's like I hope it's not a case where they were like, oh, I want to do a sloth, how do we make it fit into the story? It was kind of the other way around.
Yeah, if they do like with sloth, I hope it's not connected to the story at all, really. It's just going to be contrived if it is.
I mean, I think he said there's a genuine reason why it is what it is and why it's there. But I mean, the thing to take away from this is they seem to be aware of what a raid needs to be.
Yeah.
It should be quite epic and full on, I guess.
Which is good considering that they're game designers. So I would hope that they're in tune with what's going on in the industry and what's considered requirement. I don't know, or formula. Aaron, I think your mic turned off or something. You suddenly went super quiet for me.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you?
Hello. Hi. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
God, that was weird.
So weird.
It's right here. It's live. It's got the red light on.
Right. Okay.
So another thing they brought out then was that in Salvation Pass there'll be a lot of kind of small secrets, and Bobby Stein used the word actual characters that you can encounter if you go exploring and kind of go off the beaten path. Which I thought was quite nice, because Spirit Vale is pretty linear. There's not really all that much to explore outside of right at the start. You can kind of go left.
Pretty much just boss. Right?
Yeah.
They mentioned, and I'm trying to remember where they mentioned that there's an NPC in Spirit Vale that is currently nameless, but on Tuesday will have a name and plugs into the story going forward into Salvation Pass. I don't
actually know where the nameless NPC. I mean, so Jace on Friday made me do all the collect the letters or something and collect all the dead pack soldiers.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't make me. He said, "Have you done this?" I was like, "No." So I made him take me around, and there was stuff that was like right at the start that we pass every.
I like how that
time.
changed from. I like how that changed from he made me to you made him.
Yeah, I know.
That's fantastic.
I'll be fair to him. And there was stuff right at the start of the raid that we pass every single time that I hadn't even picked up. So that's like how much I pay attention to the actual story that's going on.
You're like, I just want to fight.
Basically, yeah.
and Jason's more like, let's find out what's going on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it's really nice to see there'll be little kind of Easter eggs and stuff that reward exploration. And I think Crystal was actually talking about how there was a whole area that they didn't have time to do something they wanted to do in it that's got really nothing. The whole instance of Salvation Pass is too big for what they actually need it for. And so I think, was it Angel that went in and filled it? I can't quite remember off Guild Chat.
I think so. Yeah, I think
it might
that's
have been
right.
Angel that went in and did some stuff in one particular area, filled it with don't know what, because they don't. It wouldn't actually tell us anything. But things like that aren't necessarily like on the path between bosses or like things you need to do to progress inside the raid, but things that will enhance kind of the story aspect and kind of your overall experience. And it seems like they're really investing in like the storytelling aspect of raiding.
That's cool.
and
I'm in.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was something that we're getting Living World Season 3 after the raids come out. So my question is, will the raid story actually affect what's happening in Season 3? Like, will it?
See that
I believe
that's
they've
the
said it will not.
they've said that it will not, but all of these little Easter egg nuggety things is making me worry
All these
that it will.
all the rich nougaty centers.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like I'm just starting to kind of think, oh, you're investing a lot of time. You're telling us about all of the story elements that you're putting into the raid. It seems like, from a marketing point of view, that you're trying to entice your players. Hey, go try out the raids.
Well, I think
Especially
they are,
if you're
like,
interested in story. So, I mean, it feels like, okay, maybe they're putting more story elements in than they had originally planned on.
Well, do you want?
Well, and you can tell a story in a game mode without having it be the story, right? Like we have the Living World storyline and the expansion and the core game storyline that is kind of the overarching storyline of the game. And then, the raid storyline doesn't have to sync up with any of that at all. It could just be its own contained narrative, which is, I think, what they're going for, right? So I think that's more what we're going to see here. I think the raid is going to have a cohesive storyline that begins and ends from Spirit Vale to whatever the last one is called.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that's how raids.
I hope that's what they do.
work.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. So sure deal. I'm so sorry. It says in chat, raids will probably provide hints to the story of Living Story.
Yeah.
Which I can see, maybe not like directly affect it, but hint towards what.
There will be nods. There will be nods
What
to,
may
oh yeah,
happen.
remember that in Living Story? That kind of pertains to this, but
Well,
I don't think
and-
it will advance the
Yeah.
main
Yeah.
storyline at all.
That is my hope. I hope that they stick to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's I'm starting to worry that it's not.
And so going
That's just me.
back to the point you were bringing up a second ago about it seeming to be their marketing department appealing to the mass community of, hey, go check out our raids for all this story stuff. I think this brings us to the point of the difficulty being the same in Spirit Vale as Spirit Vale, and Crystal Reed was saying that it's because there's lots of players who haven't beaten Gorseable or Sabbather, and it's the opportunity to go and do something different.
Yeah.
And it seems to be very much raids seem to be trying to appeal to as many people as possible.
Well, if you think back to how they marketed the Heart of Thorns hype train, they kept teasing us about challenging content that's coming with Heart of Thorns, and it turned out to be raids. And I think that was one of the last things that they announced, but they kept us dangling for 9 months with this. So where am I going with this? If they were thinking that they wanted to make raids be this cornerstone feature to come in with Heart of Thorns, it makes sense that they would try to continue that push aspect of trying to get people into the raids.
Well, I think they're investing a lot of development time into raids and a lot of resources into it, so I think they have to make it as available to as many people as possible. And Guild Wars 2 isn't an MMO people will have been playing for raids, so they have to make them available for people who don't raid, or who
They have to make that player base. They don't they don't have it organically. They have to create it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I understand why they've done it, but there's always the argument of the more hardcore group of people. No, we want it to be more difficult, and we want more of a challenge. That's something we're going to talk about a little bit later, actually. We'll come to that.
The point that you've got in the notes that characters are going to be reacting to more things going on in the raid, I thought that was really interesting because there is some of that in Heart of Thorns, but and when it does happen, it's kind of cool. I wish they had done more of it, so I'm glad that they're kind of pushing this area a little bit more.
So especially the points about player characters actually bouncing off each other and as if they're like having a conversation and talking to each other. I think that's going to be really cool. And I think Bobby said it's the first time they've actually ever done it in the game. So I'm really interested to see see that aspect of it. It just adds another dimension. I mean, it's always great to hear your own characters talking. You know, when we first saw it in Heart of Thorns, you're like, oh my god, it's back! They're talking again. It's like, ah.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's great when you enter a raid, and I forget that my character talks when you enter a raid, and it's like, oh yeah, they're saying this dialogue again. And it's still kind of nice. And the fact that they've got alternating lines as well, so you won't always hear the same thing over and over again, depending on like what genders and races you've got, and just generally if you've cleared it or not. I think that's a really nice little touch as well. That just makes raids as a whole feel. It makes them feel polished, I guess, and like it's a genuine thing they're really invested in, which is great as someone who spends all their time in raids
these days.
That's basically what I do in Guild Wars anymore. I log in raid and then pretend
log
to
out
be,
again.
Yeah.
Pretend to be doing other things.
So yeah. So interesting storytelling stuff, and I guess we'll see on Tuesday where the story takes us. I know people have been asking about, kind of talking about where we think the story's going to go before and all that kind of stuff. I guess we get to find out on Tuesday, the next installment.
When people have cleared the path within 3 hours of its release, and they're like, yeah, we're done, whatever.
Well, I think. I hope it takes we get at least 24 hours
it'll take
the first kill.
It'll be at least a couple days, I think, before someone clears the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what you want.
I'd like to say we can have at least a week where we don't have anyone killing it, but that's not going to happen.
Probably not. No.
Have they said how many bosses are going to be in this wing? Is it going to be 3 again?
I'm pretty sure it'll be 3. It seems to. I think that's what they do. 3 bosses, which.
I know that they said in the AMA that they're trying to keep variances. There will be variances between raid releases. This was Paul regarding the number of encounters, depending on complexity of development and design. But most raids will be of a consistent size. So
I think
maybe
3
or 4.
Yeah, I mean, 4's normally a good number for a raid, for an entire section. But. We'll see, I guess. I mean,
do you know if they've been doing, because they beta tested the first raid wing, right? Do you know if they've been doing beta tests for this one, or if they've been all behind closed doors?
So they've got those guilds. After DNT got kicked, they got in another guild, didn't they? I can't quite remember.
The super elite sauce guilds.
Yeah, so they'll have been developing it and testing it with them, as with the first wing. So it's all pretty much the same, I think. So yeah, and that's it with what we're going to talk about for raids on Tuesday. I guess next episode we'll be able to talk
have more.
Hopefully,
we'll have more about the raids that Rowan will have conquered.
So, you guys cleared. You guys finally killed Sabbatha.
Yeah, we finally stopped being actual noobs and got Sabbatha kill and Eternal.
Yay.
So it was touch and go, whether or not. I mean, I feel so. I wasn't even happy. Well, I was happy. I was just like, thank God, I finally.
I think you were more relieved than anything else.
Yeah, I was just. I mean, I knew how to kill Sabbatha weeks ago. It was just my group's holding me back, man. I mean, I don't I don't mean it that way. People take longer to learn encounters than the people, and that happens with every group. It gets frustrating when there's a core kind of group of you within the group that know what you're doing, and you're just kind of waiting for the others to catch up. But we finally did it, and I'm happy. And then we get to start fresh on Tuesday.
There you go.
So moving on.
Yes.
AMA.
Yes.
There was a Reddit AMA, guys. Kind of out of the blue, right? Am I right? This was.
Yeah, I had no idea.
This was just
they
so
dropped this in on Friday. It's here's guild chatting, la la la. We're done.
I was at work, right?
You're in the GuildMag chat that Colin's leaving. I was like, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at work, and then Twitter just started blowing up with, guys, Colin's leaving ArenaNet. All the tears are being shed.
Yeah.
And this Mike O'Brien came out with this Reddit AMA, and he's like, yeah, Colin's leaving. Ask me anything you want ever. I'm replacing him as temporary game director. Mike
Mhm.
O'Brien is, of course, the president of ArenaNet. He's more on the business end than on the game development end, but right now he's filling in on the game development end as well as director. So that's pretty cool. So, guys,
Yeah.
Colin's leaving. How do you feel about that?
I mean,
I
who's
just-
gonna smile at us?
I know. I don't really know what to say. I mean, he didn't say where he was going to, did he?
No,
He
just
said that
that-
he was leaving to be closer to his family and his
Mhm.
wife, so that he could support his wife in a project she's embarking on, and just because he's been away from his family for a while, so he was like, you know what, it's time to do the family thing, and so that's where Colin's off.
I mean,
to.
he's been with the ArenaNet for 11 years.
Yeah, something stupid
that's
like
pretty
that.
cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But this is like Twigs and Guns says in chat, the suspicion is that he's gone to Amazon has picked him up because Amazon keeps picking people
they're
up.
just taking up ArenaNet. When we were joking about this on Friday in our raid group, or what was it? Yeah, Friday. Because we were raiding like basically as the announcement dropped, I think.
Right.
Did that just screw over your kill?
Yeah, it took us way too long.
I think you guys got the kill and then it was announced, so it was kind of like you were
Nice, there's a-
euphoric. We're done.
Yeah,
Double
I was
whammy.
like, oh, I killed
And then,
Sam.
oh
No,
my
no,
gosh,
Colin's
what?
leaving. What?
Yeah.
But yeah, the suspicion we were all talking about, oh, he's going to Amazon, they're poaching everyone from ArenaNet to make a new super MMO. I mean, nobody even knows what they're actually developing. Like, it's super,
No.
like...
Yeah, but
secret
the
and-
list of people that they've got on board now with them is pretty impressive.
It's like a game development supergroup.
Basically. Yeah.
I'm trying to find. There was a comment on Reddit that had like everyone listed out. I think it might have been on this summary post actually. But yeah,
I mean, when you're Amazon, you can pretty much just come to people and say like, "Hey, how much you making? I will pay you double to come over
Yeah.
here and work for me."
because we're Amazon.
So, Conifex says, I'm guessing a MOBA. Twigs and Guns says they make mobile games, but they might be coming out with
Mhm.
something big. Yeah, I mean, if they're taking all these MMO devs, I'm
They're
expecting...
taking people working on MMOs. They're not making a mobile
I mean,
game,
Amazon's
guys.
actual infrastructure, like server infrastructure, is surely, like, if you want to do an MMO, like, go to Amazon for your server infrastructure because they've got it all already. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, they
it
can
would
make whatever they
surprise me.
want. They could just take 500 employees and go, all right, here's 12 people to lead you. Go make an MMO. Have fun. Bye. And then, in 2 years we'll have an MMO. But I don't know. I don't know if Colin's gone there. Honestly, that seems.
No.
It could.
I suppose
it
we'll
could, I
find
don't know.
out.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah, we will find out.
If he has gone there, it's kind of a no-brainer because, like I said, it's inevitably a career step up. So
Mhm.
Absolutely.
pretty cool. But there was also the AMA's been ongoing. I believe it's still going, right? I don't know how long these things go for, guys.
Well,
I don't
it was
know.
supposed to have been over on Friday,
Oh,
but I think that
Is
some
it over?
devs have
Is it
kind of
only Friday?
well,
Okay.
yeah, but some devs have kind of continued to kind of clarify a few points
Okay.
over the ensuing days.
But actually, what we were pulling our show notes stuff from was a post made by Archimeda on Reddit, and they kind of compiled a comprehensive list of all the questions and answers from the raids and kind of.
Thank you for this
That's fine.
TLDR.
Yes, so thank you Archimeda on Reddit for the TLDR. That's very, very, very helpful.
Yeah.
But just some of the more important PVE aspects that were talked about on the thing, like armor is going to continue to be an in-game reward. That was one that was asked really quickly right off the bat. They mentioned that armor obviously takes a lot longer to design than outfits, which is why outfits come out a lot more frequently and are on the gem store. Because armor, obviously, you got to do it piece by piece. You got to look at clipping and things like that. 'Cause you can
Sections.
dye sections, yeah.
Yeah.
And outfits are just much less intensive on the detail end to produce. So that makes a lot of sense that they come out with those more. They also said they were asked about the 2-week production cycle that the game started with, and Mo was like, "Nah, guys, that's
That was
That's
stupid.
yeah."
That's
He's
crazy
like,
talk.
"Guys, we're not gonna go back to that. That's crazy."
Yeah.
Because basically it's advocating quantity over quality. So that's
Yeah.
not what they're about. So they're gonna stick to the quarterly patches that they announced, which I like the quarterly patch idea. It's pretty cool. I like the idea of it. I thought the first one was decent, even if it was a little sparse.
Yeah, I'm
How did
actually
you-
really looking
Okay.
forward to the April one because it's
Yeah.
all about what was the phrase? Is it making things fun or something? I think was the phrase.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
Maybe.
and it was
That's
really-
never a good thing when you've got to make a making things fun patch, is it?
I mean, I'm looking forward. I think the gem idea is to kind of make Heart of Thorns what it should have been in April. I think that's the direction they're going for. So I'm looking forward to that. There was another point I was going to tack on to that, but it's gone, so let's move on.
They've apparently got multiple teams working on various content types. So basically what they mean by that is they're producing all the different types of content in the game at the same time. They're not like hyper-focusing things, so we should have more balanced content delivered to us through Living World.
Like, this is one of the things that I was just like, oh, yes, when I read it. Like, this is how it should have been from the start. Like, focusing different people on different things and releasing it. I think he said somewhere their plans for the future just to release things when they're ready and polished and done, rather than trying to, like, say, oh, we've got this coming in so many months, and then, like, either rushing it or just going quiet and having to, like, just being like, well, you said a year ago we were going to have player housing, it's not here yet, where is it? Like, you know, all that kind of...
Which actually talking about that, I wanted to, because we were kind of talking about this before the show, right? And the new legendary weapons. They were asked about these in the AMA, and they're kind of just like, we're working on it, and there's no time estimation yet. How does that... How do you feel about that?
This was disappointing to hear for me. I mean, even though that I know that they're working on them, and I understand that they are complex to design, but they build one of the key things for Heart of Thorns is saying, hey, we're going to bring in this new set of legendary weapons, and we've gotten 3.
In about 5 months.
Are we going to get the rest of the set by the end of the year?
I mean, if we don't, like Aaron was saying before the show, it's going to be a bit. It's a big cock up if we don't, like, to put it.
I mean,
it takes them over a year to put these out. Like, I understand game development takes a while, right? But you should be able to release your set of weapons in under a year.
I mean, Twigs and Guns brings out in chat, and they still need to bug fix the new ones that are released, and that's exactly going back to the point of it.
Have I made that up?
No, they are going to bring in some fixes into, I think, the April patch for the collections for the existing ones. But it's one of those things that, like when Mo said that they're going to be focusing on releasing things when they're polished and ready. That's better than rushing, like we were saying. At the same time, it's kind of like, well, are we going to have the full set by the end of this year, or by the time the next expansion hits?
Yeah. And I was saying before the show, it's like with Legendaries, at least it feels like they've kind of sold us the expansion and then started working on it, rather than, like, I was saying, like, if you have an expansion, you have most of the content or all of the content ready to go when the expansion actually ships, and you just phase out when you release it. You don't start developing half your content that people have bought. You know.
Yeah, it seems like they were too fractured in their organization, maybe.
I think
for their devs.
Hopefully, expansion number 2. Now that they've got these teams that are working on things, because they have a team that's just focused on the next expansion. So
and it's not that. I mean, it's like what, 70 of the whole 300 or something like that.
Yeah.
Some randomly small number, or smaller than the. It's not half of the dev team, pretty much.
No, but I think they've split it quite well, actually. I think it's right to focus on what's in the core game and getting all that right, and have the majority of devs dedicated to that, and then have it's a relatively decently sized group of.
I was going to say that's like a good third of the company.
It's I mean, like,
that's a lot of people.
I'm pretty sure the entirety of Final Fantasy 14 is developed by less people than the amount that are just working on the next expansion for Guild Wars 2. So, I think it's decent, and hopefully we see much more content. And as Sherdil says, I think they're divided into too many different types of content, and it's slowing them down too much. Even WoW does not have that many types.
Yeah.
And I mean,
they've gone a little gung ho with the variety of their content. Now they need to try and keep up with it, and that could be presenting a problem going into.
I mean, if you look at what happened with World versus World, and they're fixing it, and they're still fixing it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at MMOs, you typically classify them into like a PvE or PvP MMO, and I think Guild Wars 2 is you don't really know what to classify it into, because it's trying to do both. Because if you think about, so Black Desert Online just launched, and its PvE endgame is a load of trash apparently, but PvP wise, it's really
Right.
good, and that's
Bit toss.
you play Black Desert Online for its
Yeah.
PvP endgame if you're into that kind of thing.
Right.
Whereas WoW, PvP is arguably trash now, but its PvE endgame is still going strong. You know, still expansions coming out with raiding, new story, all the kind of stuff. And Guild Wars 2 is kind of sitting in the middle where it's like, yeah, we've got raids ish. Well, yeah, we've got raids coming out. We've got PvP seasons. We're overhauling World v World. We're doing all this stuff. And speaking from experience, when at GuildMag we try and do too many things at once, everything just ends up being a little bit shit.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
There was a post that came out earlier this week. I think it was an article that came out on ESPN's esports division. They were talking about how Guild Wars 2's esports scene, they're trying to like break into it. Is it going to work? Because
that an article
MMOs have
about-
a bad.
Yeah, it was an article about MMO esports
MMOs,
specifically.
yeah, exactly. And so the article was basically saying anytime MMOs try and get into the esports scene, they don't have a really good track record of being successful. But they're looking at Guild Wars 2 and was it WildStar? I don't remember the second game. As saying, you know, these two games here, they are kind of breaking the mold and showing that they are coming along and doing kind of well. Maybe it was Blade and Soul. But yeah, so what is the future of MMOs in esports? But I guess the point that they made for Guild Wars 2 is that more players have come on board into Guild Wars 2 or tried PvP since the esports leagues launched.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I know I'm not really a fan of MMO esports.
Thank you.
Me either, particularly. I tune into Guild Wars 2 sometimes, but I don't know what's going on.
It was Blade and Soul, according to Hunter's Insight.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, I guess, I mean, we'll see what happens now that they've properly split all their teams up. And I think this big World v World overhaul that's coming will either make or break the future of World v World for Guild Wars 2.
I think so.
If it's anything less,
They're not going to do another one.
Well, no. I think if it's anything less than what people are expecting to fit, like if it doesn't fix the majority of issues, then I think you can pretty much just cross out World v World as anything they should actively develop anymore.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It would be a shame. I mean, to see it kind of go the way of Dungeons.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Especially because I really like when they did the tournaments, or those were really fun.
Yeah.
Do another one of those. I want to grind out that giant meta that's ridiculous.
It is so big. It's big, isn't it?
I finished all of those World v World tournament metas. It's crazy.
Dedicated person.
It was hours and hours and hours. But also, they said they were asked about underwater combat, whether they plan on improving it. No plans to improve that. That's
That made me
not,
sad.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
I'm not too asked about underwater combat, to be honest.
I like the underwater environments in Guild Wars 2. I think they've done underwater movement and worlds pretty much better than most games ever.
Yeah.
So I think it's a shame that they're not really working on that foundation they built there, because they really nailed it when it comes to.
I think underwater combat is fun in Guild Wars 2.
I think it's
maybe it's the
combat
classes that I
is
play.
solid.
But
It's the issue is the lack of skills that you can use underwater, because they just didn't bother to make them work underwater. So that's a problem.
I mean, I think the clear sign that they weren't going to be doing anymore with underwater combat is the Revenants. Have you seen the Revenants' underwater skills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have one weapon and 2 legends that work underwater. That's it.
And like all the skills are just rehashed of other.
Of the above ground, yeah, it's so
And
sad.
they just compensated by just making Spear Auto Attack 2 super OP, and then that I'm perfectly happy with Revenant Underwater,
Right.
because that skill is amazing, right? But yeah, I'd like to see Underwater get a bit of an overhaul, but I mean I don't see how they can't overhaul it eventually, right? Because we've got this underwater dragon, and I feel like if they don't overhaul Underwater, we're just going to end up fighting it on ships, which is going to be boring, or B, because it's just going to be Zaitan 2.0, right?
We're never gonna fight that dragon, I can guarantee.
Bubbles is never going to make it.
Yeah, or B, they're going to write it out. They're going to write it out of.
Maybe we'll go into submarines.
I feel
The submarines are a thing that were with the pact.
Like the way we meet Cantha is their fleet's going to sail up from the south and be like, yeah, the water dragon's done.
Yeah,
go back to your lives, citizens. Yeah.
I feel like it's too much for an undertaking to just overhaul underwater combat. I think like, how do you make like? I don't find it that interesting. Like,
it's no more or less interesting than above ground combat.
I mean, I'm trying to imagine like an underwater raid, and it sounds like my idea of hell. Like, it's so much nicer to like position yourself on land and.
Well, yeah, it's easier.
Do things on land compared to
the problem with the underwater combat is how you get a set of underwater weapon skills, right? But you don't get underwater utilities. That's a problem. There's a disconnect there. You need to get both. They need to have underwater utilities to function underwater. And that's a lot of work to make a whole new utility skill set for every class, even if it's only like half the number of skills. So an underwater revamp is super unlikely because of that. But I feel like if they had underwater utilities and underwater weapon skills, that your character would just be so much more functional underwater, and it wouldn't feel crappy like it does now.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't get the aqua breathers that were like you now get level up rewards that will give you aqua breathers. That wasn't a thing when we were all leveling.
Yeah.
I know I'd be rolling into underwater level 80 and with like a level 1 aqua breather. I'm like, what's up?
And you can get your like freaking ascended aqua breather now. God, what a waste of money.
I know.
But some people are so like they have everything. They're so bored. They're like, yeah, I guess my next progression is ascended aqua breather. But they were also. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to skip over the next point you're about to make and do a cool segue, but you've ruined it.
Oh, go ahead. Go do a full segue.
No, so I was going to say, speaking of underwater combat, there is an underwater fractal, and they were talking about fractals in the AMA.
Yeah.
They were.
That was going to be my segue, but I kind of botched it up a little bit.
It's all right. We'll pretend. What about those fractals there?
Yeah, so there was a fractal news discussion post on Reddit as well. I'll just pull a couple of things out of. So I think one of the biggest things is that leaderboards have been scrapped. I think it's probably taken a bit longer than it should have to realise that it just wasn't going to work and they were going to scrap it anyway. And I'm with most people. I'm not too bothered about they've been scrapped. I mean, I'd never. Fractals aren't difficult enough to warrant a leaderboard in the first place.
No, I don't know why
that
was ever a thing people were like losing their minds over, because who cares?
Yeah.
Like if you want to do competitive fractals, set up your little thing with some guilds or whatever, but it doesn't need to be supported in game with leaderboards. Like that's stupid.
Yeah.
PvP I can understand. WW I can understand. Fractals?
Yeah.
Why?
No.
Yeah.
I could even see raids, like if you want to speed run a raid. That makes sense, right? But fractals seem kind of...
I don't know. So leaderboards have been scrapped. New fractals are in the works. Thank God, it's about time.
I know. I think almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years since the last new fractal.
Yep.
Cry. The downside of this is that they're like not coming in April. They're still early prototyping, which basically means they're quite far away. So I don't know if we could even expect it in the Q3 patch or not.
It sounds like it might be Q4 then.
It sounds like a Q4. Did they say it was actually they were coming this year? New fractals?
They did.
Yes, they confirmed in the big "This is 2016" blog post that new fractals are coming this year.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of expecting Q4 on new fractals. But they also
if it's Q4, there needs to be more than like 3, right? Like if they come out with one new fractal Q4, that's going to be really sad.
Yeah.
I'd like there to be at least 3 fractals if they're putting a year into this. So.
Oh yeah. I think that's fair.
It looks like they're trying to also overhaul the rewards for fractals.
Yes.
And rework agony and agony resistance.
How many times have they reworked that now?
Well, I don't know.
Which fractal overhaul are we on? 6, 7?
God.
Netcode
I think they're great now. I love the fractal rewards right now. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say that Netco says in chat that they said it will only be one new fractal.
Did they really say that?
I want a link,
Please,
man.
someone
Give us
from
a link
chat
if you know.
confirm or
Please tell us who said
deny
it
that.
where.
I didn't
Because
see that in the AMA.
I didn't see that in the AMA either.
I haven't seen that. Surely not. If you spend this amount of time doing new fractals, you don't just do one
And
new
you're-
fractal.
that'll be sad.
I mean, like
I
how
don't know.
long can
Maybe
it take
we're
to develop a
expecting too much.
fractal? It's like
I don't
it's
know.
a small map. It's not like you're developing a raid wing. Like it's a
don't-
small map with bosses that aren't that difficult and a load of trash in between. They said they release one at a time.
Okay, says Sherdil.
So I mean, does that mean they're going to
Oh.
develop multiple ones and then release them like?
Oh God, is it going to be like the legendaries? Are we not going to get the last new fractal until December 2017?
Netco gave us a link in chat.
Someone check that
our
out.
next,
While
for
I-
our
I'll
next
keep-
for our next fractal, we really wanted to make something which appealed to veteran fractal players. We've kept you guys waiting long enough for new content, so we wanted to make something special. How vague is that? We're planning on releasing new fractals one at a time.
That sounds like they
Okay.
are just working on one. And they'll be like, when we've done this one, we'll start releasing more one at a time.
Well, now that makes me wonder how many people they have working on fractals, because if they're
Yeah.
releasing like one at a time, maybe they have like 5 people working on fractals, right?
I don't know. It was just Sean who was pretty much answering everything now for fractals, it seems like.
I don't think it's a huge team.
Probably not.
So, yeah, Junitario asked him, what does that mean, one fractal every 3 months? And he goes, it's hard to say at this point in time. The team is relatively new. Ooh. So we're still getting a feel for how much work we can get done in a quarter. We also want to make sure we avoid the Aether Path dilemma where nobody plays the new content because it's too long.
Oh,
It
guys, they
doesn't
put the
matter how-
interns on fractals.
It doesn't matter how long it is if the rewards are good enough and if it justifies it. Like, I've been over this, the amount of times I've talked about Aether Path and how they just need to
Okay.
have unique,
Say it again.
proper
Yeah.
rewards. It doesn't matter how long it is or how time consuming it is. People do raids now and people have spent hours learning to do raids and the rewards for them are actually kind of bad, but we'll skip over that. It's like,
Yeah.
I would do Aether Path if there was something that genuinely interested me and there was unique about it that I could only get from doing Aether Path. And
Like the
same-
chests are supposed to be it, but you don't get anything good from them. Like you can, but that, let's be honest, that
Yeah.
never happens,
Like,
right?
it needs to be something
So-
that you guarantee progression towards every time you complete the path or that fractal, or
Yeah.
you know whatever context we're applying this to. RNG sucks, and it should get rid of it.
It's great for It's great for balancing an economy, but I think the player bases are over it now. Like there was a time where player bases like, yeah, let's go farm this boss all day and try to get this drop. Like that was fun once upon a time. Nobody likes it anymore. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a thing you want to put in your
Yeah.
game anymore. So
like
Yeah.
the quote about the Aether Path really worries me because Aether Path is a good example of stuff that can be somewhat challenging. For as far as dungeons go, at least, it's probably the most difficult path I think of all of them.
So,
So
to bring up this question that Chaotic Gamer brought up in chat, how many would you want at the end of the year?
a good handful.
How
I
many
don't know the
fractals?
exact like,
How many fractals?
give me
How many-
3 or
how many-
4.
I want a minimum of 3.
Give
A
me
minimum of 3.
give me enough
minimum of
that
3 fractals.
it feels like a whole, like, I want to go into fractals and it to not just be the same fractals where occasionally I might get a new one, or well, it's not random anymore, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to just be like, all the same fractals, but here's a new one that you can do at this level and this level and whatever.
Mhm.
It has to be like a whole new, like, what am I trying to say?
A
So
whole
imagine-
new world.
Yeah, a whole new
Oh,
world of
wow.
fractals. Like the fractured update that came November 2012.
They're in 2013.
2013, that's the one.
To be fair.
2013.
2013. That should have been like, hey, here's all these new fractals. That's whatever the new update needs to be. It can't just be one, but that's what's going to happen. But that's my run over. I'm getting
I don't know. Are any of like?
Felt
I
it.
think the issue we're constantly running into here is they like can't produce content nearly as fast as we kind of consume it
Consume.
and want it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys
Yeah.
think we're running into the problem that their company might be too small to produce all that they've bitten off at this point.
I've
Like
said this
their
before,
game has
like,
expanded to the size that they need to seriously expand their company.
Yeah.
ArenaNet is a small game developer. When you look at it like Blizzard and WoW, like I don't know how many devs they've got, but it's got to be at least like double ArenaNet's.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're at a point
like,
where they seriously need to invest in expanding their.
It's like at the same time though. Like I brought this point up earlier. I brought it up on multiple podcasts. Final Fantasy 14 has a tiny dev team, and they produce content that people play for months on end. Like they have these quarterly updates, like Guild Wars 2 is planning now, where they release a whole new section of story, new dungeons, new raids, new gear, and it keeps people busy until the next update. And maybe you play it for only like 2 out of 3 months or whatever, but it's still a good chunk of stuff to do. And it's done with a dev team that focuses purely on the PvE aspect. They've got a really small PvP aspect to the game, and there is actually a big kind of PvP. I think it's 50v50 map or something, a bit like we can see World v World, a little bit like that. But they focus on one thing. They do it pretty well. It's debatable at the moment because some people think Heaven's Ward is not enough, but we won't go down that road.
But so my question is because I had this conversation earlier this week with someone. The question of reusing your assets. How many times do companies like that reuse their assets so that they can put content out more quickly, or develop content more quickly?
So well, what XIV do really well is in every quarterly update they have what they call hard mode dungeons, where they take an existing dungeon and they bump it up to be challenging for the current player base, and so they'll maybe open up like a new area of the dungeon, but they'll reuse some stuff from the existing one, make it much harder, and it's like a whole new encounter with whole new mechanics, more gear, and it's a great way to more quickly produce content than like having to design the whole new raid wing that they do every couple of updates.
I'm just so curious because Arlie82 in chat says they've got a partner QA company. Sherdil in chat says ArenaNet supposedly has one of the largest numbers of people working on a live MMO in the games
they've got
industry.
about 300, 350.
So I don't know, I don't know what we're comparing to really, but like Rowan just said, XIV's got a smaller team, and I'm curious as to what that bottleneck is in their content development process, because guys, nobody's gonna be excited about one new fractal. Like waiting a year for one new fractal, that's bad. Nobody's gonna I mean, objectively, how long it takes to create a fractal aside, just one fractal in a year isn't good.
Okay, but now we're talking. I'm going to segue here. We're talking one fractal, but how about waiting until the summer for the Living World to kick off again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the whole
season 3. That's a whole new topic. Yeah,
yeah.
Just segue.
That's huger. That's much more huge than a simple fractal, though. I feel like you should be able to. Guys, is 3 fractals in a year too much to ask? Am I crazy? Am I a crazy person?
Not really. I mean, it's just, like Sheridan will just point out, XIV has no real PvP, no World v World. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, they
mostly focus on PvE. They do occasional PvP updates where I think they've recently brought out a new PvP encounter or map or whatever. I don't do PvP in XIV anyway. But people play XIV for the PvE, and Guild Wars 2 needs to decide, is it a PvP or a PvE MMO, and it needs to stop trying to appeal to everyone, because in doing that, it's appealing to no one.
I don't agree with that. I think, I highly don't agree with that. I think they've got good PvP that's appealing to a lot of people, and they shouldn't just ditch that. That's crazy talk. And they've got good PvE that appeals to a lot of people, and they shouldn't ditch that. WW is the sticking point, right? And that's actually something to consider in the pace of this year's updates, is who knows how many people they've got working on the WW thing, who knows how expansive that is. That could be taking up a huge chunk of their resources that could otherwise be,
used
given
elsewhere
to other things and make things come out quicker. So the WW might be the wild card there, and what's kind of spreading them too thin.
Yeah,
it could be.
But I definitely don't think they should decide we're PvE now or we're PvP now.
Well, I mean, they did both. They did both in Guild Wars 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. I mean, Guild Wars 1
both quite well, actually.
PvP kind of got left by the wayside eventually in Guild Wars 1, though. Like, let's be honest.
I don't know. I
They
never
got
PvP'd in
They got
those
balance
games
patches for it. But
Yeah, I mean,
they
Heroes
didn't-
Ascent died towards the end. And the hero battles, I remember that. They scrapped hero battles. That was the saddest day of my
Well,
life.
because people were abusing hero battles. That's why
Well,
they scrapped
exactly. That's why I loved it.
those. But yeah, Carnifex makes a point of, I'm guessing it's simply the engine and software tools that are different between those two games. I'm wondering how difficult it is. Like, it could have to do with the game's coding. It could have to do with the art standards they have, things like that. I'm wondering how long it takes to produce assets, to produce coding for, Guild Wars 2. And obviously that's a question we're never going to be able to answer definitively, but I'm wondering if that's just it, if it just simply takes longer to develop Guild Wars 2 material than other games.
Right. Yeah.
And that could factor into it, that they just have a complex game to work with.
Yeah.
I am still. I'm a little sad that we're having to wait until Q3 for Living World Season 3.
I think
I was hoping-
I think everyone's pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah.
About having to wait that long. My biggest hope at this point is that it justifies the wait. In terms of the actual content. I think that's.
Yes.
I think if it does, it can redeem itself. I won't mind as a raider. I won't mind because I have things to keep me occupied in game. Hopefully until it comes out. But especially for people who don't raid, I imagine there's not really much to keep you logging in these days.
I think I said this on the last podcast, but pretty much for a lot of people, it's if we're farming for something, and if we're not farming, like if there's no shiny that we want, then we're probably not playing very much. Like me right now, I don't have anything I'm farming for right now. I'm not playing very much, but if something catches my eye, then I'm like, hey, I'll farm 2,000 gold for that and buy it, and then stop playing again. So that's kind of what dictates my playing time right now.
And so the last thing they said was that permanent changes to the world will be coming with Season 3. And we were joking about, does this mean more Kessex Hills being destroyed? But I
permanent changes can be other things than destruction. Spoiler.
Let's build some stuff.
Well,
let's
build some
fix
stuff.
that waypoint that was destroyed.
Yes.
And,
oh my God, can we get the waypoint
let's clean up the
back,
lake.
please?
Yeah,
please give me the waypoint back.
Either like fix it or just take it off the map. I'm sick of it being permanently like contested, and it's like do something with it, please.
Yeah.
It's like more drama. I know dragon minions don't die when elder dragons die, right? They can survive on their own, but we could clear these waypoints out feasibly, right? Like that's not ridiculous.
Timey was supposed to have fixed the waypoint network, so there's no reason for those waypoints still to be down.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see the nuking of Lion's Arches. Netco says, and time for new Lion's Arch again.
Someone can get
they can't
lobster
destroy it
there.
again.
Like...
if they destroy it again, we're all just gonna eye roll.
No.
Actually, if they destroy any major city again, we're gonna eye roll because it's just not. It's not an inventive plot device anymore. Now that they've done it.
I don't know. It depends on what they would do to like destroy a city. I mean, you made the point some months ago that Radasum should have been destroyed.
I feel like it should have.
Yeah, because of how close it is to the dragons.
Better, but
yeah.
I feel like
I guess they just didn't have time.
If they're gonna destroy a city again, when they rebuild it, they need to do it in stages. Like I said last time, like don't just go from scaffolding to lobster on a giant lobster in one like.
Yeah.
I know they put in some scaffolding.
Scaffolding
like
for 2 weeks.
And then
and then like a month later, oh yeah, here's our city. What? Yeah.
No, I don't think we'll see another city, but I think it's like a one trick. I think they're probably looking for the next big. What can we? Oh my God! Look at what Guild Wars 2 are doing in their living world now. Like blowing up LA was their thing, for season 1. It happened in season 1, right?
Season 1.
The end of it,
yeah.
Season 1.
And it was fun.
So, so I guess let's see what their thing is for season 3. But yeah, I am excited that they're keeping up with the permanent changes to the world thing. I think that's one of the things that makes it feel, I guess, relevant. I want to see more of it. I want to feel like they've called it living story. I want to feel like it's genuinely affecting the world around me. I don't want to feel like it's just, oh, we've got rid of this waypoint and we've added some vines coming out the ground.
Right.
Not that we'll be like, Mordremoth's gone, so I don't. Are we going to see like more vines sprouting up, or hopefully it's like something new now? I kind of sick of seeing vines everywhere.
Depends. Is Mordremoth truly dead?
Yeah, we know.
We've already been through this whole conspiracy theory. I know.
I'm gonna go out on a vine and say yes.
God.
I'm gonna give that one an affirmative. So
Right.
And so yeah, I hope it's genuine, meaningful, permanent changes that properly affect the world, and people in like a year or two time can go, oh, what happened here? Rather than like, oh, why has this waypoint got a vine coming out of it?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, and so the final thing we're going to discuss today is, of course, Colin leaving.
Yeah.
And with his departure, I think he's leaving on Friday, didn't you say? Like
Friday.
this coming Friday.
This coming Friday.
So unfortunately, with his departure, it gives us a chance to kind of have a new game director and take Guild Wars 2 in possibly a new direction, or kind of shore up some things that have been bugging players for quite a while. And I thought it'd be interesting to kind of talk about what would we want from the new game director and what should kind of be their focus for Guild Wars 2. Do you guys have any initial thoughts?
I think.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You have more well thought out point.
I not really. I was like, I don't know, what do I want? I want him to push for maybe more frequent living world seasons, and maybe longer living world seasons, like maybe 10 or 12 episodes instead of I don't chat saying Cantha. I don't really care too much about going to Alona or Cantha. Like, that'd be cool, don't get me wrong, I'm down. But we've got plenty to explore in the core Tyrian map right now as well. So I just want him to push for maybe more frequent living world seasons and opening up more of the Tyrian map that we have right now. That's kind of my number one thing I want to do in the game.
I'm in the same boat. I feel like there's plenty to explore in our Tyria rather than the rest of Tyria. It's so why do they name it like that? That's always confused me. Like when you say Tyrian, you're referring to either the continent or
the planet.
Yeah.
And plus, it doesn't help that the continent doesn't really have well-defined borders. So it's just kind of what they decided to give us.
Yeah.
So I know you were mentioning earlier that you think the game director should be promoted from an existing developer within the company.
That's just what I would like, but there are pros and cons to bringing someone in from the outside as well.
I actually wouldn't mind an outsider coming in. I think it would give a kind of fresh perspective on things. I think obviously it has to be someone who's not invested, but who knows about Guild Wars 2 and its kind of its player base, and it shouldn't be someone who's completely new to like the franchise or has no idea what this MMO is about, because there's a chance
what I'm worried about.
The chances that you turn it into any other kind of cookie cutter MMO. And I think, but I'm not entirely against it being someone who's not currently part of the development team. I think it'd be good to get, it's always good to get other people's perspective on where the game's heading and what you should be doing. Because you kind of, when you're on the inside, you become so invested in it, you tend to have like rose-tinted glasses. You overlook, I suppose, the bad points of your game, and it falls on players and like meaningful player feedback to be able to make you realize where you're going wrong, I guess. So I wouldn't be against an outsider coming in.
I think it's more likely it'll be someone from the outside, just because from the inside, off the top of my head, I don't obviously know all of their employee positions, but you've got Colin as game director, and then all the people underneath Colin are leads for various different niche content types, and I don't think there's anybody that's really qualified to fill the game director role from within. So I think it'll probably be someone from the outside, just based on that.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, Izzy Cartwright seems to have a good handle on a lot of things.
Cartwright, Bobby Stein were kind of two of the ones that I was kicking around.
Peter Fries, there we go. Job done.
Peter Freeze. Peter Freeze, and he'll end up killing all the Quaggins and all of the NPCs.
Yeah. Arlie in chat says John Corpening. Yeah, Corpening's got a handle on the game really well.
Yeah. I like John, only because I met him at Gamescom. But,
dude, John Corpening is the nicest person I've met in my entire life. That is in no way an exaggeration. He's like freaky levels of nice. It's crazy.
I'm totally jealous you guys met these people. Just like
he ate a lot of food at Gamescom.
Did he?
No, he. Like, because everyone, like, they brought out loads of, at this community party, they brought out just loads of food, loads of German stuff that I had no idea what half of it was. And there was, I think he had everything, and I had no idea what half it, what he was saying was like, I've got no idea what this is. But he was like,
It's adventurous palette, I guess. That's good.
But yeah, so are there any specific kind of content areas or just things in game you'd like to see the game director push?
I would like to see them that if they bring things into the game, that they actually, if they were to bring it in as part of the living world, for example, that they don't just abandon it like Craig's did. Craig's had some pretty cool fights for season 1's living world. And what happened to it? It's just there. Yeah, there's things going on. Like, you can walk into it still, and you find out that people are moving back into the town, but it's just sitting there. It's nothing.
It's a POI. Yeah, it's a
nothing
POI
happens in that map. It's so sad, and it's like, why you spent this development time to create this little niche up in Wayfarer Foothills. Do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so
similar to that. Just a tiny, like, this is a really tiny aspect of the game, but it really bothers me, especially since I've been doing our streams. When you talk to NPCs throughout the map, just little, whatever NPCs, a lot of them give you really meaningless dialogue that's kind of stupid. And it makes me wonder, why did you even bother, putting a dialogue box in for this? Because it's usually just like, yeah, the Lion Guard are protecting the road. Shocker,
Yeah.
I just wish I want them to make some more interesting dialogue. That's something I'd like to see the new director emphasize.
Yeah. For me, it's all about the raids. So my concern is
full circle.
So on Guild Chat, the latest episode, Crystal Reed said that they'd already started planning out what she was moving on to working on next after Wing 3's come out. And my concern is that they do this first raid, and then it's like, okay, raids are done in Guild Wars 2. Like, that's not how you do raids in MMOs. You do one raid, and then you start working on your next. You don't just leave it with these 3 wings. So first of all, I'm seriously hoping that they actually do further raids than, what's the name of the whole thing? Forsaken Thicket. There we go. Mine's just gone blank.
It's okay.
So I seriously hope we get like a second raid. Once Wing 3's come out, they start thinking about where they're going next with it.
Well, that's the thing. Don't just bring it in as like a one and done.
Yeah, once you've started, you don't stop. You carry on. Or at least that's the plan. Like you're creating raiders. Give them something to raid with. So hopefully that continues. And my biggest hope is that the second raid in its entirety is more difficult than Forsaken Thicket, because it's pretty much, I think we're pretty much guaranteed that Forsaken Thicket is going to be the same difficulty throughout now. I mean, if Wing 2 is the same roughly as Wing 1, like Crystal said, I'm pretty sure that Wing 3 would fit as well, based on
with maybe a ridiculous final boss though, as the final boss of the raid. Well, I could see that being the hardest thing.
Yeah.
But I really hope that they do a second raid altogether that just ramps up difficulty again. I think this one was a good starting point. It's more difficult than your average Guild Wars 2 content, which is, I mean, thank God for that. But I think when they do their second one, it ramps it up again, and you can still have that first one, the same difficulty, and the more casual players, I don't really like using that term, but I can't think of a better way to describe it.
Non-raiders.
Yeah, or just people who haven't cleared the content yet still have that difficulty level to overcome. Yeah. And then you can appease the more experienced or hardcore, whatever you want to call them, people like myself, but people who've got Eternal and all that, whatever goes along with it. Give them something genuinely difficult that takes longer than a week to clear.
But at the same point, if you're going to be appealing to non-raiders, you want to have something going on in the open world. Yeah. I think the open world needs attention. Like Sherdal brings up in chat, they should focus on open world more than instance content in PvP, since in open world is the biggest thing that separates Guild Wars 2 from other theme park MMOs. I mean, we talked about this with the Heart of Thorns map, that the there aren't enough like just little solo quests that you can do or dynamic events that don't have anything to do with the meta events. So just bringing in some more of those dynamic events that people can just push along and not have to worry about, oh, I've got to work towards the meta for this map.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So a couple points. First of all, I think we're going to see expansions, raids sync up with expansions. You're going to get, an expansion is going to start a new raid, and then those wings will get released, and then, the next year, the next X pack, and maybe not the next year, but maybe every 2 years or something like that for X packs. But also, this is something that I kind of just remembered that I really want in the game, but I'm so hopeless about it that I never really think about it. And it's something that a new game director would actually be in a position to greenlight would be traditional questing in the game. I want to go up to an NPC, I want them to give me something to do, and then I want to go do it, and then I want to come talk to them again. I like doing that. That's fun. I think it should be in the game, and I think it lacking in the game holds it back a lot.
So a question came up in chat earlier. It's gone now. I've passed, way past. But when do you guys think that the next expansion will be coming in? I know we've brought this up in past shows. But now that we've 2018,
I think
you want to put your numbers?
I think 17. I think 2 years is a good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was late 2015, so
Yeah, I
late
think
2017 or early 2018. I wouldn't go too late in 2018 with it.
No, I think 3 years is too long. You've got the same issues again. I think 2 years is enough time to polish it and make sure you've got good content with good story, meaningful story, more story.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years is perfectly acceptable since WoW does every 2 years. That's like the benchmark, right?
So that would put us at like what, 2 more seasons of the Living World?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like, yeah. I think.
I'd hope.
I mean, depends how long season 3 is.
I wonder if we'll get all our new legendaries by then.
I hope so.
But yeah. I honestly don't think we'll see traditional questing. I think they're just way too invested in. I honestly don't think we're going to ever see anything like a quest or a heart again, as long as.
I know, it's unfortunate.
I think it's just dynamic events, open world, instance content, and that's.
I wonder if that's part of the interview for a game director at ArenaNet. They're like, and you're not going to do traditional questing, right? That's not a thing you want. All right, you got the job.
Or if they do want to bring in traditional questing, have a good reason for it. And a different way to make it meaningful, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they wouldn't have to retroactively fit it into the old zones either. I'd just like to see it going forward.
So do you think that a new game director would want to try and harden up the roles for classes? I think it was Rowan who said, the Trinity. Did you say that earlier this week?
Yeah.
I think Raiders would really like that. I think I would not.
That's where me and Aaron differ.
Yeah, I mean, because their whole combat system, their entire combat system is so different from other games in that sense. So why would you want to regress?
Guys, as a person who thoroughly enjoys playing all my different alts, and I have a lot of alts, I like being able to go from character to character to character and play basically the same way and be functional. It's great. So I wouldn't like them to define the roles more. I like them being very blurry.
I think they're going as far as they can, to be honest, with define the role, like
a druid and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think there's much more they can do outside of completely overhauling how their entire combat in the game works. To be honest,
so they're taking their combat back to like 2005.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do proper tanking, you'd have to implement aggro skills and no, it's just not going to happen in Guild Wars 2. I think we'll just see a continuation of what we've got at the moment, in terms of maybe introduce a new healer. Well, maybe not a new healer, but a new kind of supportive character. I'd like to see something that's focused on more like damage mitigation rather than healing it back up, to make it different from like a druid or a water tempest.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Which is what you normally get in other MMOs. How you differentiate healers. You have ones that you have some that have protective barriers to mitigate damage. You have others that heal AoE. You have some that heal over time. So there's various ways you can do it. A druid is kind of, I suppose, the AoE big what's something like Spike Healer, I guess, maybe.
Mm.
I don't know how to define Druid healing compared to like normal MMOs, but I think in
I
terms
don't
of
know.
like a Trinity, I think they're going as far as they can with like this kind
Right.
of, I guess, soft Trinity that they're doing.
Mm. They did say that in the AMA that they are going to be bringing in the ability for different play styles to take part in the next raid wing, which I find
I
interesting.
don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means though,
I'll be able
but
to tell
that's
you
an interesting
in a
statement.
week or two, but
Let us
Yeah.
know on next week
I'll let
how
you
it
know
went on
Sunday.
this week. Yeah.
So speaking of next week, then I think that about wraps us up. We've
Yeah.
gone for quite a while this week.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
the
it's our
other thing
longest
that came
episode.
out.
Oh,
I know.
It was a
what-
big
the-
week.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing that we didn't talk about was this bug tracker that was announced on
I
Reddit.
mean, TLDR, there's a bug
and-
tracker, there's lots of bugs, they're fixing them.
Yeah.
It's quite surprising how many bugs there actually are, but it's Bug Wars 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Done.
Wars 2.
Like
We'll-
you read that off a piece of paper.
We'll throw that link into the show notes.
Yeah, so the link will be in the show notes if you fancy checking out the bug tracker. It is useful to see what they're actually working on.
Yeah.
If there's a bug on there that I guess they're not tracking, then let them know. It always helps.
Mm.
And that's it for this week. So next week we'll be talking about Slothosaur, providing that I've killed it, which I should have done, hopefully. We'll see. And we'll be talking about any other big news that drops like on a Friday evening. You never know. I mean, Mike
You
O'Brien
never
might be
know.
leaving next. Maybe that's what game directors do in ArenaNet. It just sucks the life out of them.
Aw.
But yeah, this is our last podcast under Colin as game director.
I know.
So next
No more
week,
smile.
no. Oh, speaking
Under
of
the
which,
dynasty.
if you haven't hovered your mouse over the subreddit banner yet, go
Yes,
and do
go
it.
do that.
And
You'll have a little surprise.
you can have a nice little surprise next to the Slothosaur.
A nice little happy surprise.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. So big thank you to everyone who's joined us in chat. We are live every Sunday, 8 p.m. GMT, 12 p.m. Pacific. Although next week, you
I do remember.
guys go to 1 p.m., don't you?
Yes, we do.
So
'Cause
if you are
Daylight saving times.
yeah, so Pacific Daylight Saving Time, it'll be an hour later. And then
Later,
if you're in the
1
UK,
PM.
that happens in 3 weeks. So
This is the
we'll try.
guys.
And,
I never remember when daylight savings time is. This is news to me.
I mean,
this is-
I only remembered because I looked at the calendar and I went, "What? It's already happening?"
I know. Like she told me, "Have you switched it?" I was like, "Wait, what? No, I don't think I've switched an hour later." So
Hey.
this is the point where it gets confusing, and we try and make it as easy as we can to like differentiate. So just turn up like around this time next week, and hopefully you'll
be
find
here.
us. Yeah, hopefully we'll be here.
We'll be here.
So yeah, Aaron, your stream. Do you want to just pick that up whilst we're here?
Yep. There's a strem. It's gonna be. I do it every Monday, Wednesday, and it's pretty much just map exploration. We're going through all the maps in Corteria and completing them. We just finished Lornar's Pass last week. I had to do a two-parter on Lornar's Pass, guys. It was crazy. It's huge. So that's fun. Tune into that every Monday, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, not 10 p.m. Eastern. It's a lot of fun. We stream a full map every time. So
Oh.
do check that out. And I believe
Missy over
Sam
here.
has a stream coming up
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
Stream.
And I know I was replying to somebody in chat. I'm starting a stream on Thursday. It's going to be on a free to play account. We're going to level a character up from 0 to 80. If you want to see what that free to play experience is like, if you know of anyone who's kind of been on the fence about Guild Wars 2 and you want to let them know or give them another tool so that they can evaluate the game, have them show up Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. That will be here on twitch.tv/GuildMag.
There we go. So tune in for all our streams. You see, we're getting loads of streams together these days.
Yes.
So tune in for that. Especially if you know people who don't yet have Guild Wars 2 and who are not sure if they want to try it out, if it's not for them. Get them to come along. Sandra will answer all the questions about Guild Wars 2. And they can help support GuildMag if they sign up with our affiliate link for a free-to-play account. So everyone's a winner. And with that, I think we'll be back in a week's time. We will do a short post show after this, so if you are with us live, do stay tuned. And if you're not,
You can ask questions. It's great.
Yeah. If you're not, thank you for listening. We'll see you in a week's time. So. Bye, guys.
Bye.